Okay.
All right. We are live, it looks like. So we're going to give everybody just a couple of more minutes to kind of filter in here. We've got quite a few folks that have opted to attend, and it's 10:03 Eastern time. We're going to give it probably 1 to 2 more minutes before we get the conversation started, okay? If anybody is having a hard time, microphone not working or what have you, just, send a text in the chat string on the right of the screen, but hopefully the platform is working and functional for everyone.
Cool. Garrett, we're good to
Good to go. You want to go ahead and get started?
Yep.
Okay. So listen, overwhelming amount of support from everybody in attending this. Cash, you might want to put it on mute on your end, your microphone, that is. I hear a little bit of my voice coming back through potentially, but it could be our guests as well. But that said, I wanted to just thank everybody for coming today. We at Liquid Diamonds feel that it's important to provide a platform for our industry leaders to discuss the rapid change we're all experiencing, and honestly, just provide some perspective for everyone to appreciate. And we couldn't do this without your participation. So thank you for coming. We hope you enjoy today's conversation with two gentlemen who we think can provide unique opinions on the state of the market today, and where the future is going to take us. Before we begin our chat, I want to cover just some housekeeping items for those of you who have never used Crowdcast before. At the bottom of the screen, you can see a link with ask a question. You can click on that link and you can actually ask us a question. It's going to be seen publicly throughout the conversation, but probably more so at the end. We're going to field some of those questions from you all. Now, there's obviously a chance that more than one person wants to ask kind of essentially the same sort of question. So the cool thing about this platform and why we chose it is you can actually read the previous questions and click on the vote up arrow to support an already existing question. So if there's any redundancy out there. And we'll be sure to ask our guests, the questions with the highest number of votes at the end of the conversation. Secondly, to introduce myself, my name is Garrett McGinnis. I'm the head of growth for Liquid Diamonds, and I'm excited to get this chat started. At the end, I'll share my contact info with anyone who would like to have a conversation with me about what we do and who we are. But that's pretty much it as an intro. So now that that's out of the way, I'd like to introduce the people who we're here for, and that's Mr. Anoop Mehta, who is the director of Mohit Diamonds and the president of the Bharat Diamond Bourse, and Mr. Amish Mehta, who is the owner of Amipi, which is a New York City-based diamond trading company. Gentlemen, thanks for coming today. So we're going to start with Mr. Anoop. I think that everyone would love to hear your thoughts on the state of the market today with all that's going on globally. Would you mind offering us your opinion, of what's going on today and kind of what you think will change as a result of the disruption? We've lost Mr. Anoop. All right. Mr. Amish, I'm going to switch over to you while we wait for Mr. Anoop to join back in. I know he was saying that he had some connectivity challenges when we started the chat, so he lost connectivity, it seems. So that said, the plan is to have your opinion as well. Would love to get your thoughts on what's working today, what's not working today, and what you see the necessary changes to be.
Well, first thing, nothing is working today. New York is closed. India is closed. We can't buy diamonds. We can't sell diamonds. So that's a big challenge we all are going to face. We all are facing right now. Sorry. This current situation we're in, it's not like 2008. It's not like the recession. It's very, very different. This is the first time it's global. Everyone's closed. We can't do anything. We're all sitting at home, preparing, hoping that things will come back. And I'm sure they will. It's just a matter of time. But right now, I think all we're doing is preparing. We're trying to touch base with as many customers who are open, and that's about it right now. I think this is a very unique situation. I'm sure we'll get out of it, but I don't think it's going to be just a small blip. It's going to be, whether it's a month or 3 months or 6 months, it's going to take some time to recover from this. That's for sure.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, prior crises, 2008, 2009. You could even go back to, 9/11 or the dot-com, bubble, 98 recession. What you've been in the business a long time. What did those, financial, crises, recessions, et cetera, global slowdowns, really, let's call it. Obviously, this one's deeper. It's faster than we've ever seen.
Right.
But are there any parallels or differences that you'd like to highlight, in your experience in the trade and what's happened then versus what's happening today?
Well, you know what? In 2008, we had the recession. 2009, we were able to make it up, right? We took hits on our inventory. We lost money on our inventory. But incoming, we were able to replace our goods at a much lower price. We were able to make money on it. But you have to understand, there was much less price transparency in the US or globally than what it is today. So at that point, there weren't that many users of RapNet. There were users, but there were not that many. So there were still some ways we could make additional profit. Right now, I think it's going to be immediate. Prices will go down. Everyone will know it's immediate. Prices will go, you won't be able to make any additional profit. We'll have to take hits on our current inventory, and we'll have to, if you want to play the game, you won't be able to make extra money to make up that loss. That's the big difference I see. I know that we will revive. It's a matter of time. In 2008, 2009, whoever was in business made a lot of money after the recession. Everything went up, up, up and away. This time it's going to be more challenging to make up the money you lose. That's
Sure.
a question but again, there'll be more efficiencies, and I feel a lot of people might even, get out of the business. I think it's going to be very challenging.
What are you seeing from a cash flow perspective? I think when you talk about running a company and, surviving an unknown amount of time, what are there any changes going on right now that you're seeing your customers have, or you're asking your, suppliers to make on your behalf? Generally, industry-wide knowledge about what are people doing to react from a cash flow perspective right now, if anything?
Well, everyone's hoping that the government will, help out, which they've started helping out, and everyone's looking forward to that. That's going to be a drop in the barrel. We all have much higher expenses, and we have, fixed costs. Not everything is being covered by the governments. I believe it's going to be a very challenging situation, whether it's the retailer to us, whether it's us to our suppliers. It's going to be extremely challenging. I don't think most people will not be able to pay their bills on time. That's my opinion. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but it's going to be extremely challenging. We've been lucky. We've been getting checks in even this week. So, there are good people out there, and they're going to survive, and they're going to grow. But there will be losses. There will be bankruptcies. We will have challenges to face in the coming 6 months to 1 year.
Okay. So it sounds like there's a consensus then. There's going to be some consolidation. It's going to take it's going to be a little bit of time, to sort everything out, obviously. With what we've experienced in the past, and what we're going through right now, there's certainly some parallels. I think that other than consolidation, you mentioned, people who were in the business and survived, let's say, people who survived prior downturns were able to come out of it stronger, bigger, potentially better. How do you think this is going to transition, in a no period of time? Obviously, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 2 years, right, before this thing kind of sorts itself out. What do you think is going to change in the industry, if anything? If you had a crystal ball and you could, say, here's my prediction for 1 or 2 things that may or may not change, what do you think that looks like going forward?
I think 2 things which I know we're seeing already. Much more interest in online online sales. Customers are getting prepared like they don't have a website. So, yeah, there's a lot of independent stores in America who are not prepared with a good website, or they're like, oh yeah, this is just for demonstration. Please come into the store. Now it's people don't want to come into your store right now, so they need a website with a shopping cart. They need a website with which is able to transact. People are going to be much more aware of omni-channel marketing, and I think it's going to become much more important. People have been avoiding it. They don't want the headache. They want a website now. They want a website. They're gonna. That's. I think that business is gonna boom. That part of the business is gonna take away a lot of the retail sales online.
How do you think? I mean, how do you think price is going to recover? Obviously, price is going to go down. Price is going to go up. Supply demand. I think that in prior downturns, prices recovered quite quickly. Which buyers came back into the market. Kind of touches on some of the short-term price decay we've seen already, just simply due to price, supply and demand dynamics, specifically demand. I don't know that supply is really being that impacted so much as demand is right now, but and obviously, Rap, lowering his suggested prices. But that said, how do you think price is going to rebound? I mean, you think it'll be quick? Do you think it'll take some time? What are your thoughts there?
It's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take time, and I think it's going to, we're going to see super low lows, and we're going to go see super high highs. If it's anything like the recession, right, and the way it was, I mean, I think we were buying. I remember in 2009, we were buying stuff at 50 off and 55 off, and 2011, we were buying the same businesses at 12 off.
Technology is moving in the manufacturing and even on visualization and sending it forward. It will play a huge part, and I think selling online is going to be a big platform, and especially even in the jewelry. So you'll have all your wedding rings and everything which you'll be able to order online. You would be able to design it yourself. Not that it's not happening today; it's already happened. It's very minor. I think it'll go up in a big way.
Same for you, Mr. Amish. What are your thoughts? 1 to 2 years from now, how will this trade evolve from a technology usage perspective?
Honestly, I think at least from the wholesaler trader perspective, whoever's not using data, whoever's not analyzing data, and not kind of keeping a lean inventory based on what their history shows or what their data shows, they're going to have a very tough time staying in the business. Data is going to be one of the most important parts of your business. I think it already is for us. We mine our data pretty much on a weekly basis. What's selling, what's not selling, what price points are selling, which vendors are good for us. Everything is important. So I think data is going to become a very more important play than it has ever been. And like Anoop said, I think online sales are going to take over, or at least a large portion of sales are going to be taken over by online.
So from Liquid Diamond's perspective, Mr. Amish, there are a lot of people in the industry today who don't leverage data very well. They have a lot of data. They have access to a lot of data. But what they do with that data isn't exactly, the proper way to leverage it, right? So we honestly consider you to kind of be at the top of the market, right? When it comes to having command over your business, how you leverage data to assess deals. I'd love it if you could share kind of, what are some of the main data points you use to decide, on a transaction basis, like which categories of diamonds do you need to buy?
Basically, it's a function of aging and margin, ROI for that category of inventory. That kind of determines what we want to keep in stock. I mean, listen, if somebody's giving something away and it's really cheap, I can't say no. But overall, we try to filter our inventory based on ROI for that category of inventory. So if it's a GSI 1 XXX none, and it rotates, 4 times a year or 10 times a year or whatever, we focus on what moves and gives us a little bit of margin.
So that was my next question. Just to clarify, in your perspective, what's more important, price or turn?
ROI. Both are, it's a combination.
They're connected though, right? So
Right.
you mentioned
All about ROI.
example. Yeah. So I mean, how do you look at then, you know, the cost of replacement versus the cost of purchase?
When I'm selling my inventory, it has nothing to do with cost of purchase. It's always mark to market, whether I'm looking on search engines or whatever. But it's always based on what the market will bear. So it's completely based on replacement cost and what the market will bear. It has nothing to do with my cost. I could be losing money, I could be making money. That's irrelevant.
Got it. Very interesting. Great. Well, Mr. Anoop, do you have any thoughts, you know, on this topic from the Mohit Diamonds perspective? I know you guys focus.
So we do the similar thing when we have an inventory and we're buying rough. There's always a time lag of anywhere between 60 days to 120 days. So we are always looking at what we can fetch in the market today and what we are anticipating to fetch in the next 60 to 120 days. And that's how we do business. So there are times, and we know that whenever the market opens now, that there is a great possibility that one would take a hit on the stock. And at the same time, if the scenario changes and there's not going to be too much production and not too much rough out there immediately available, then it would hold steady or even maybe move up a little bit in certain categories.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So supply contraction, you know, would help, I think, everybody's current situation a little bit, you know, with regard to price or perceived mark-to-market price. You know, it's not a bad thing. You know, short term, you know.
So to give a straight answer is difficult on this because it's like, you know, you've got 5,000 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle and you're just starting to assemble it. Okay. So you've got a whole world map with 5,000 pieces out there, and you have to figure out how each one fits in, and the picture will only come clear once the last one goes in.
Okay. I'd like to, you know, we're talking about supply, we're talking about demand. Mr. Anoop, you know, what's your perspective on, you know, the lab grown market right now and how it plays into this conversation?
Haven't heard about it since COVID-19. So maybe it's a good thing, you know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, we're certainly biased towards natural. It's all we allow on our platform, but you know, it has been the rage, right? You know, for the last several years, and the movement to, you know, the CBD and lab grown. So, just generally interested in kind of your all's perspective on what that's going to look like over the next handful of months and or year.
Hello, we lost you out there for a second. So.
Yeah, I was just asking about what your perspective is on how the lab grown market is going to have an impact on the natural and or just on its own segment of the market for the next, you know, however much time. Do you foresee, you know, in 2 years, let's just use a number, it being as relevant of a trend as it has been, say, for the last 2 years? Can you hear me?
No. So
I think we're having a hard time with your connection. Maybe you can.
Yeah,
I can. We can hear you. We can't see you, but that's okay.
Okay, so well, I think the lab grown has gone quiet for some time just now, but at the end it will pick up pace and it'll find its own levels. I'm sure the same way that the natural has its own issues, the lab grown will also have its own issues, and maybe it'll take a little longer for them to catch up on.
Got it. Mr. Amish, what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be more relevant than it was last year. I mean, this year was, in my opinion, going to be a big year for lab grown. I think we're taking a pause. It might take another year or two, but I think it's going to take a decent portion of the natural diamond business.
Okay. Yeah.
If you say 2 years, it'll definitely be more relevant than it was last year.
Interesting. So one of the things that I wanted to, discuss before when we were having kind of some technical issues is, I called it the elephant in the room, and really the recent price changes offered up by Rapaport. There's a lot of outrage going on. We're a member of, Telegram chat groups, WhatsApp chat groups, people bashing everybody. We don't honestly want to participate in that. But I am interested in your perspective on, what those announcements are doing, and how that's impacting psyche, how that's impacting decisions you're making in the market today. I'll start with Mr. Amish on that topic.
So here's my take on it. I don't believe that we need a price list as such. I think data is available, whether it's on Liquid Diamond, whether it's on RapNet when they had listed inventory, whether it's Polygon, IDEX. Everyone has their own price list. It's available. It's out there. You can just, they have averages, average pricing. I don't see the requirement of a price list at all. I think we need all the platforms we can to sell diamonds right now. And I believe RapNet is a good platform. It's actually one of the best, I think. And for selling, it's a great platform. Price list, irrelevant.
Okay.
I believe we give him power by referring to it, by using it like I just did. Remember, I said 55 back and 12 back.
Sure.
So that's us, trained to do this since I don't know how many years, since I've been in the industry. But I feel it's irrelevant today because there's so much price transparency. Everything's out there. All I need to do is go online and search, and I'll know this is what everyone's selling for. This is the market. So we make the market, not Mr. Rapaport, my opinion.
Mr. Anoop, do you have anything to add to that perspective?
So I've been interacting with quite a few people out there, and one thing's for sure that you need alternative platforms out there. And I totally agree that a price list in today's day and age, when so many people are mining data, is soon going to be obsolete, because you'll have artificial intelligence in your own engine, which will give you a price on a particular moment what's available. So as far as business to business is concerned, and that's how we are anyway doing business today. So if there are 10 stones of the same quality listed, there's always an argument happening, how come you're more expensive than the next guy? And you argue yourself and you make the business at the end of the day. So over a period of time, I think the price list will go away and artificial intelligence will be throwing out data. Just like as you have a ticker, maybe it will happen every day, that this is what is available.
Absolutely. Kind of where we're trying to move the market, liquid diamonds, to be honest. But with regard to price lists and the idea of fixed, even weekly, I don't care if it's weekly, daily, quarterly, whatever interval of time, any fixed price is just a recommendation for conversation, like you mentioned, Mr. Amish, leveraging it as a percent back to start the conversation so we know we're on the same page. So if we agree that there needs to be more transparency on price, if we agree that that's going to happen organically as we grow and leverage technology more, we agree that there's going to be more platforms, I think, that people are going to diversify onto. I have a couple of questions, right? Is it reasonable, let's just start with this one question. Is it reasonable for somebody to manage more than 2 or 3 platforms at any given time, to run their business? Is that doable? Mr. Amish, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's reasonable. I think it's actually pretty easy. Usually you have it in your software, it's programmed, or you can, we've been doing, mostly all the US platforms since the beginning. We're on Polygon, IDEX, VDB, GemFind. I don't know how many we're on, but we're on it all. And I think it's not that challenging.
Okay. Mr. Anoop, given the current situation, right, where finally most dealers are united. This is actually a question from the crowd, Mr. Nilesh. Most dealers are united in his perspective, and we have the WFDB that has suggested a way forward. Do you think that's the direction for everyone?
One thing is for sure that an alternative is needed, and I think competition is always good for everyone. So I think we'll all get a better platform, or we'll have multiple platforms which will be operating in different regions very successfully. So I think it's high time that the competition does come in.
I want you guys to answer this question. Do you guys, Mr. Amish, I'll start with you. Do you want price transparency? It's in short, because before you answer, I would argue that not everybody does. They value the arbitrage opportunities that they can make without price transparency. So what does price transparency mean for you?
In my opinion, you can't fight a tide. This is a tide. It's reality. There is price transparency in everything, whether you want to buy underwear on Amazon or whether you want to buy diamonds. There's price transparency. So you can't fight that. It's a part of life. And honestly, price transparency has been very good for me personally. I think it's fantastic. It's challenging, but you can, I think it's very helpful, and I don't think you can fight it. So don't even try. It's ridiculous to think that you can fight transparency. It's here to stay.
Mr. Anoop, what about you?
I agree with him entirely. So, people over there pretty savvy with checking out prices before they go and buy something, and it's very easy to find out prices of most things today.
So we've been in this situation as an industry before where, a price reduction has been announced. People got up in arms. There's been a move to other platforms. I think the quality and availability of the multiple options at that time was less than today, certainly. Do you see this evolution actually sticking this time? Because I would argue last time pretty much everybody delisted their stock, and within a short period of time, pretty much everybody was back to RapNet. Do you see that? You see that persisting this time around, Mr. Amish?
I think it's more serious than it's ever been. So I'm not sure, but I don't think delisting is the solution. I think giving up on marketing platforms in the current situation, in my opinion, is not the right idea.
Mr. Anoop?
In a way, I agree. Maybe delisting may not be the actual right way to go about things. Really is questioning as to how can you have a decrease across the board for anywhere between 6 to 7%. So there's no logic to it, and that's one of the reasons that everybody just wants to leave, because it sounded very illogical. And they're looking for alternatives, and I believe there will be 3-4 good platforms which will come out of this. They've been dormant, or maybe 1 or 2 new ones will come out of it. And the industry, apart from the big players who have their own platforms and are selling well, it'll be the medium and smaller players who will have a bigger choice. And I'm sure it's nothing lasts forever. So maybe there will be some competition, which is going to be great,
Sure. So alternative platforms, if we had a magic wand and we could replace, or let's put it this way, if everybody who on this call wants to be disassociated with RapNet could have a magic wand and essentially carbon copy what RapNet has in terms of a classified listing website, and there's some good ones out there that are already in existence. Do you think that is just having your stones posted for sale as a marketing thing, Mr. Amish, you mentioned, with people having the ability to find you and call you or email you about a specific stone? Is that enough of an evolution? Is just separating from one person to the next, or Do we need more? And in your opinion, what do you think the next step is in terms of what the market demands for the new iteration of what we're going for? I'll start with Mr. Amish.
So new platforms you're talking about? You're asking
Yeah,
about what?
I mean, so like if you have I look at RapNet largely as a classified listing, right? I mean, you put your diamonds for sale, you say here's what your asking price is. One person can call you. You know, I can search and find 100 other people that are selling a similar stone and call them. You know, is that enough? Just having another platform that you can market your stones on that doesn't have the red logo on it, or is there additional functionality, you know, that is needed in order, in your opinion, to improve that, you know, classified listing? And if there is additional functionality that's needed to achieve price transparency or promote better competition, have you thought about that? And if so, what would you say that additional functionality needs to be?
No, to be honest, I haven't thought about it. I think it's simple. It works. You get calls, you get emails. I'm sure there's things that are required, but again, I haven't thought about this at all. To be honest.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Mr. Anoop, I think you've got a unique perspective. You know, at the top of the market. What have you considered that, or any of your colleagues?
If you look in depth into Rapaport, he does give you a lot of data out there.
Sure.
Maybe
Trade
all
screen.
of us
Yeah, I
don't
get it.
read it. He does give you what the average price of the listing of a particular stones are, and
Yep.
I know that there's a group of people who have their own successful platforms at present. They're looking in depth into all this, and I'm sure something will come out with maybe a few new ideas which will work. I hopefully believe that it will work well. The question is going to be how far the reach is going to be. You know, how it's going to reach everybody all over the place in such a short time.
Yeah, getting a platform spun up is not an easy thing to do. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and in three months have a new platform. You know, and so
if the experience is not good, I wouldn't be surprised if everybody goes back to RapNet.
Yep.
Most of these platforms have been around for years. The three which everyone's been talking about, they've been around for years, and they don't have the depth yet. Let's see what we can do.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about is just generally speaking, you know, kind of switching gears here to a certain degree. You know, precious metals, you know, such as gold, you know, have long served as a risk mitigating asset during times of crisis. You know, do you guys see diamonds being seen as a store of value like that, or an alternative asset class for investment? Mr. Anoop, I'll start with you.
I guess it would be more like an alternative asset because it's not easy to dispose of.
It's not liquid yet.
Yeah, it's not yet liquid.
Yeah.
And I'd say
Mr.
that I'd say that especially in lockdowns, it would be illiquid.
What are your thoughts there, Mr. Amish?
I agree completely. I mean, I separate asset class. If you have a lot of money, you want to diversify, but again, it's an illiquid asset, and I don't think historically it's been a great investment either.
Okay, so if we agree that it's not liquid, you know, what can we do as an industry right now to promote liquidity and price transparency?
So price transparency is already there, more or less, you know, and I'm sure it will increase with the number of platforms and the number of listings that are going to be out there. As far as liquidity is concerned, we still don't have an answer. You do have a couple of exchanges with listing diamonds, but again, they're restricted to 30 points, 50 points, 1 carat, but it's not a wide range. So I think one is still, for liquidity, one is still relying to go back to the business or to a pawn shop.
Mr. Amish, any thoughts?
Yeah, I find it hard. Like I don't believe that we can give, diamonds can't give you the liquidity that you have in gold, for example, right? It's a homogenized commodity. It's simple. Gold is gold. Diamonds, there's too many variations. I don't believe we can have a large public market that, hey, you know what? I'm selling this 10 below my cost. I don't think that's going to happen. People have been trying to do it for years now, but I think we're far from it. Might happen, but we're far.
I agree we're far from it, but I disagree with your conclusion. Um, so that's essentially what we're trying to accomplish here at Liquid Diamonds, is creating that ability for you to liquidate your investment, and we think that it requires more demand. How do you get demand? If you can package diamonds as a financial instrument and expose assets, investors, things like that, to be able to purchase underlying commoditized diamond-based asset-backed securities, it will increase volumes. Really, is really what it boils down to.
Sure.
And we can't do that until there's true price liquidity and price discovery. And I would argue that I would say at Liquid Diamonds, that price discovery, transparency, whatever word you want to put to it, doesn't exist today. And the reason I say that is if you have a specific diamond that you're trying to sell on RapNet, sure, other people could see all the alternatives to what yours is, and they see your price point. What you don't see, though, as a seller is the hundreds of people that are looking at that specific search, and you don't see their demand. Like, you don't see their ability to maybe pay, $100 or $200 less than your asking price. But if you knew that there were people in the market that actually had a bid, to purchase your stone at $100 or $200 less than what your current asking price is, without them having to call you or email you, then you might be willing to reduce your price down. Maybe not all the way, but you might be able to reduce your price down. And in turn, there might be other suppliers that that have visibility to that one person's demand or multiple people's demand, to actually compete against you on the supply side, right? If they have an exact, categorically equal alternative that is equal to or maybe even better than, maybe the measurements are better, maybe it's one degree better on clarity. But they're looking from a cash flow perspective. Maybe they need to liquidate it. Maybe they're willing to sell it for that $100 or $200 price point that buyer is willing to bid. In a classified listing site, you don't have that. And in an auction site, you don't have that, because an auction is single-sided. It's just one stone with a lot of buyers. You need a lot of buyers and a lot of sellers competing on the same exact stone or category of stone. And I think that that's what we bring to the table from a price liquidity, price transparency perspective. Literally no other platform can do, because candidly, we have a patent on the technology. But that was a little plug for us, in the context of this conversation, as to the differentiation between what people know today versus what they don't. And a lot of people on this call haven't even exposed to our business. And therefore they don't know. They don't know that this is something that exists that could happen. And we feel, our purpose is to bring this to market, to help improve the liquidity, to help improve price discovery than where it's at right now. So, I wanted to basically, and got one other question here, and then we're going to kind of close up and go to questions from the crowd. Obviously we're having this online webinar, and it's I think a great platform for everybody to kind of hear a couple of guys that everybody respects offer their opinion. Do you see this kind of behavior continuing post the coronavirus crisis, in lieu of, say, a trade show being the primary, platform to get the word out, if you will, to have these sorts of interactions? Do you think this is a positive thing for the industry, and can you foresee participating in future things like this, regardless of whether or not it's coming from Liquid Diamonds or not? Mr. Anoop.
I didn't get the question. It broke up in the middle. So can you just repeat?
Did you hear, Mr. Amish?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be, listen, you still have physical seminars and meetings like this, but I think people are getting much more comfortable with webinars now. So I think people will be okay. We'll have a combination. We'll have a combination of meetings where you can attend physically or virtually, your choice. I think depends on people's comfort level.
Yeah. Cool. So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, sir. For you,
no,
for
so
sure. Please.
I guess when it comes to going to see the goods, and you need to go to the trade shows, but I don't know whether you'll still be left with so many trade shows, because most of it, I agree, would happen on the webinar, because everybody's getting used to it now.
Okay, cool. Well, guys, so I'm getting ready to switch over here to the public Q&A. We've got a question from Deepak. His question is, Mr. Anoop, we'll start with you. After the COVID-19 recovery, whenever that happens, there will certainly be a shift in people's choices. He thinks for sure they would want to stay away from luxury, at least for the short run. What are your thoughts on this?
So, well, as you know, in diamonds, we have all ranges that could be there. So if that happens, then at least all the cheaper and the smaller goods would move. At the end of the day, I think people would still get married, and they would still want to celebrate the various anniversaries and important days. And there's nothing better than to do it with diamonds.
Mr. Amish?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, people are going to get married, and we saw that in the recession, right? People definitely, thanks God, they get married. That means you're going to be selling certified diamonds, and they're going to be celebrating their anniversaries. So they're going to be buying some bands, some tennis bracelets. So that the basics are not going anywhere, and it'll come back. It'll just take time. That's all.
Next question from Sahil. Once COVID-19 is over, Mr. Amish, we'll start with you here. What will go back to normal, and what will change forever?
Well, good question. I mean, you know what? When the lockdown started here, we thought it was going to be 2 weeks. A lot of things weren't going to change, but now it could be, a month. How far-reaching is this going to be? So hard to say what's going to change forever. But I think the way people shop is going to change. More people who weren't comfortable with online shopping, online webinars, people are getting comfortable with all of these things. So that's going to change. People are going to get used to this, using technology. The people who are the holdouts, they're going to start using technology for everything, just like we do. So I think that's probably going to be the change, the lasting change.
Okay. Mr. Anoop, what are your thoughts? What will go back to normal, and what will change forever?
I agree with what he's saying. That, I mean, difficult to predict what's going to change, but I guess people will be more conscious of inventory, and they'll be much more efficient. So efficiency will creep in very quickly, and costs will be very important to everybody. I think once we are through this, I think that's when they realize what cost means.
Got it. I'm just reading here some of the emails or some of the questions in terms of what folks are asking. Okay, so Mr. asked, back of the envelope calculation suggests that 20 to 25% drop globally of demand jewelry in 2020. Online will work, but people will get tired of staying home once the fear is gone, equivalent of frugal fatigue. Do you agree, Mr. Amish?
I hope. I hope they will get frugal fatigue. I hope they will come shopping, and I'm sure they will. 20 to 25% reduction for annual sales for 2020. Is that what he's?
That's what he's saying. Back of envelope calculation suggests it's 20 to 25 drop globally of demand jewelry in 2020. I assume he means percent demand.
I don't know the stats, but wow, that'll be nice. I think that's kind of optimistic, but that'll be wonderful.
Okay. We've got another question from Sarah, kind of related to the one prior. We talked, like, what do you guys think is going to go back to normal? I'll start with Mr. Anoop.
No, one thing that's going to come back to normal is that we'll all be attending office. We definitely won't be working from home anymore, because everything else will remain. We hope that all the shipping starts off early, and all the flights and everything starts operating. And the major change is going to come in the way you're going to be selling. So how much is going to go online, how much is going to be in the shops, how much is going to be on high street, and how much is going to be in the malls. This is going to be a big deciding factor.
Mr. Amish, from Praveen, can we do business on a price per carat as opposed to a wrap percent?
My feeling is we already do it. I think we already do it. I think it's, if you go on any of the non-RapNet platforms, you don't see a discount. I don't see why we need a discount. Completely, I believe we can do it on a price per carat basis.
Yeah.
It's something which has been, grandfathered in for over the years, but there's no reason to talk in discount.
Sure. What are your thoughts, Mr. Anoop?
Yeah, I agree. There's absolutely no need of having a discount. You can quote a price and work towards that. In most other goods, you do have an MRP from which you work on.
Last two questions. How does all the various platforms benefit the trading market from your guys' perspective?
Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
How do all the various this is from Randy Moss. How do all these various platforms benefit the diamond trading market?
The more choice you have, it's always better.
Exactly.
And each one of them will have certain options which will be better than the other. And at some point, the combination of all those will be the success story.
Sure.
Yeah, just more exposure, yes.
More exposure, right? So last question for both of you guys, and then we'll close up. If you guys can answer this question and maybe offer your closing thoughts, I think it's a good final one to talk about. Mr. Amish, we'll start with you. Anything to say about Mr. Rapaport's comments as it relates to country-based like Indian diamond trees or U.S. or global? Just your thoughts generally there, and any closing thoughts you might have.
I think we give Mr. Rapaport too much importance. So I think we should run our business. And right now it's a matter of survival and getting out of this. I think what Mr. Rapaport doesn't do, in my opinion, is irrelevant. And stop giving him so much importance. Forget about his pricing. Get to work.
Mr. Anoop?
Yeah, I think things will change. So Rapaport will be playing a very small role in that change. So of course, you need the sales over there. So you're going to be trying all platforms. And I would seriously be looking at USA over the next 2 weeks, because that's going to play an important role as to how much goods in 2020, what our demand is going to be. And don't forget that up to now, we had a problem in China, and China was basically a supply point for most things. If USA goes down, then that's where we get our sales from. And if you don't have your sales, then supply really doesn't matter.
Agreed. Okay. Well, everyone, in closing, I'd like to thank Mr. Amish and Mr. Anoop again for your generosity of your time and your insights. I think that we can all agree that today's conversation was beneficial to everyone. If anyone is interested in discussing liquid diamonds, our exchange, and how we can help your business the way we help Amipis, and many others. You may reach out to me using the information that hopefully we're going to share here on the screen. I'll pull it up, and you guys can see what I've got. Oh, I can't. No more seats left on the event, but I will put it over here in the text string. Here's my email. And here's my WhatsApp or cell phone. So everybody has it. And you guys can reach out to me there. And we'll go from there. But that said, guys, again, we hope that you all enjoyed the time today, and hopefully we look forward to hosting another webinar sometime in the next 7 to 10 days with details coming soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.